It's 100 years later in the future, and androids now seamlessly live alongside humans. You can order one and customize every single part to your liking, including their bedonkadonks, then have it arrive at your doorstep the very same day. Some people make armies using robots, but they're sussy beckas that try to clone their crush just so they can clap them anytime they want. After all, these advanced androids are equipped to do anything you can think of, including having special attachments that allow the owner to experience some real loving. Anyways, meet Model 42H, the newest lifelike android from the leading AI company, who goes by the name Jemsun Kim. She's so advanced that even while perfectly completing tasks like doing the dishes, she rips a fart that you can smell just so you know she's for real. Elsewhere, two male androids are getting bossed around by a real human, while an android kitty is seen lounging around the living room. However, this android kitty isn't like the real one that sometimes look like it's the owner of its human, since this one never ages, and it happens to also double up as a Roomba that cleans the entire house while being able to complete your homework at the same time. Regardless, the three bros finish up delivering a top-secret female android, and it's no surprise the two male android helpers are already gawking at the sight of the female android's twin pyramids of Giza. Suddenly, when the boss man turns around to accept a call to deliver another android, his two helpers quickly take advantage of the opportunity by exploring every part of the female android using the five-finger discount. Unfortunately, one of them was caught putting both of his hands on her anime deck the entire time, so the boss man needed to remind him that every android nowadays are equipped with 24/7 cameras, so he better stop what he's doing. Nevertheless, just a few blocks down from this apartment, we discover that the same company has also completed the delivery of another android, but this time it's a male one. While the top-secret advanced male android gets set up in the other house, the two robots based on the pervy sage try to sneak one last touch on the girl, like he's trying to be messy. But he gets caught again, so he's instantly reprimanded. The two robots are then sent home, but luckily the boss man has a heart, so he promises them that once these go on sale, he'll buy one just for them, causing one of the boys to shed tears of joy. The boss man also reminds them that if they don't want to be forcefully turned offline by the big corpos, then they need to turn off their sussy Becca tendencies as soon as possible. Fast forward a couple hours later, a girl named Yang receives a text message detailing to her that a new android model has arrived at her house for a quick beta test before worldwide release. Turns out this girl is basically a boomer, but her body is still young thanks to the advancements in technology, and she even works for GSA, the #1 AI company in the world. Simultaneously, her co-worker beside her named Ko receives the exact same text message, but he's also as confused as her, since he's bamboozled due to the fact that he never signed up for a new alpha test for their upcoming release. Eventually, Yang is forced to calm him down as he hates surprises, so she gets up with her formidable posterior and reminds him that this is top secret, so he needs to use his inner voices now. After going back to read the briefing, he agrees to keep quiet, but to get back at Yang. He orders her to strap her feet back inside her shoes since they do be starting to smell more like foot fungus as days continue to pass. Seconds later, another girl coworker of Aeon pipes up and asks if they got a weird text message as well, to which she confirms. However, as the girls continue to gossip while Ko looks frustrated he has to spend his free time on work again, a super nerd who plays Roblox Fruits is conveniently left out of the program. The nerd is so loud that Aeon has to tell him to sit back down since the entire office now wants to know what's going on, but it's literally top secret, so she tries her best to act like it's nothing special. It's then revealed that the old man from earlier who owns Jemsun Kim is actually part of the same company, and he goes by the name Kwang, so he's pretty much the top dog in the office. Kwang then points at their cleaning cat and tells them all to simmer down since they're not doing a great job in keeping everything a secret, just like when they alpha tested the android kitty. He continues to remind the crew that thanks to the initial testings, they removed the ability for cats to talk like humans since it scared a lot of people to call PETA, and now everybody loves the mailing ones. Anyways, Kwang orders everyone back to work and tells all the beta testers to make sure to use the androids as much as they can. With Ko acting like he's busy at work, he goes back to scrolling TikTok all day, but he suddenly gets ganked by Anyang, who asks him out to go get some drinks after work. Unfortunately for her though, she quickly gets rejected since it's Thursday and Thursdays are raid days with his gang, so he makes an excuse that fitness freaks like her need to watch out on drinking so much. Then midway through their totally work-related conversation, they get surprised to see boss Kwang leaving so early, so he informs them that his wife is having an emergency. Upon hearing that Miss Kwang is having some issues coping with having no children at 40 years old, Aoyang activates her massive cakes to instantly get up, allowing her to give a heartfelt good luck. Fast forward to later on the night, we see Aoyang contemplating how down bad she is because she keeps getting outright rejected by Ko. She can't even believe that her only crush her entire life called her feet stinky, so she arrives home utterly disappointed since the only reason she does so many squats is to make Ko notice her. But as she opens the door to her apartment, she gets worried upon seeing lights turned on inside when she knows she always keeps them off when she's out of the house. Nonetheless, she walks inside and notices everything sparkly clean, causing her to be so flabbergasted that she instantly drops everything she was carrying, busy thinking that someone might have robbed the place. After checking out her bedroom, she comes to the conclusion that maybe the burglar is actually Big Brain, but she changes her mind after finding all her most expensive jewelry still intact. But when she goes to close the bedroom window to stop bugs from filtering in, she gets shocked to see an unknown man begin firing lasers directly at her straight out of his eyes like Superman. Luckily for her though, he wasn't aiming for her but actually behind her, as he's busy trying to destroy every bug inside her room with absolute pinpoint accuracy that could rival any aimbot. Shortly after retracting the lasers coming out of his eyes, Ahyang instantly collapses to the ground since she did not expect the new product to be such a Chad that can shoot lasers out of their eyes. Elsewhere, Ko finds himself ganked by a girl putting away his gym equipment for him. But she's a weird one because her plump bakery and super round cannons don't have anything covering them. Upon the girl noticing that Ko is finally home, she instantly drops 100-pound dumbbells on the ground to welcome him, causing Ko to quickly hurry to make sure no damage was done on his hardwood floor. Seconds later, Bro learns that the baddie he's looking at is actually a robot, and she's the newest model his company wants him to test for the next 30 days. Unsure of what to do, Ko calls up director Kwang, but Kwang orders him to just chill and relax because he also received a model from the company he needs to test out himself as well. Kwang then accidentally hangs up on Ko after having to look away from Jemson, unable to handle eye contact with her, so he ends up accepting an urgent call from Ahyang to distract him from having to look at the android. Unfortunately for him, all he hears from the call is Ahyang absolutely freaking out because an android without any clothes on is shooting lasers inside her bedroom. But Kwang is a Sigma male, so as he tells Ahyang to calm down because it's totally normal, he starts glancing at his new android's watermelons right in front of his wife. Anyways, back at Ko's house, he can't help himself but stare at the top of the pointy pyramids of his new android, while it debriefs him to make sure to keep everything top secret or else he's going to get fired from GSA. As she continues rambling about the terms of service, Ko decides he's had enough of being a sussy baka, so he tells the android to go and wear something more appropriate because hers G-yats are sticking out. Eventually, Bro decides to test out some of her capabilities even though she's still equipping see-through clothes, only for him to forget about it when gets impressed by her strength and power that can rival the Terminator. Nonetheless, she forgets to crank her power up when Ko orders her to do a 6-plate deadlift, causing her robot hands to come cleanly off, but she's still able to function. As such, she uses the failed experiment as an excuse to get Ko to take responsibility and sign up for the 30-day test, since no one else broke an android within 15 minutes of use. Nevertheless, Bro finds himself always staring at the cannons on her, unable to fathom that technology has progressed so far that it allows androids to emulate what's it like when it's cold inside, causing her tippy-tops to harden. Soon enough, he gets stuck staring at her, causing him to almost fall for the fatal simping for a robot sickness. So he ends up having daydreams of what could happen in the near future. He starts imagining what it would be like if this android became a human in the future, so of course the first thing on his mind is doing some intense rice cake destroying. And since their one-on-one anime duels make him constantly explode his volcano inside her starship, he ends up having 2 kids, causing him to instantly snap back to reality as he ain't trying to pay child support. After getting rid of his sussy beka imagination, he falls to the ground, but the first thing he sees upon looking up is the android's unprotected yet totally exposed no-inserting zone. Now back to Ahyang, we discover that she accidentally let her starship leak on the floor, but since it's not colored, it's most likely due to her android looking like the man of her dreams. To make matters worse for her waterfall, she gets swept off her feet like in those romantic TV shows by some dude that looks like a replica of Ko, except this one is younger and more fit compared to the real one. The android then decides to deposit her to the bathroom so she can fix whatever is causing her leaking problem, but every time Bro takes a step, she cosplays the snack fruit gushers. After gushing more liquid than the faucet from the Mario movie, due to the sheer Chad presence in her life, she changes to make sure no human can catch her becoming an ultimate sussy beka because of an android. But before she could even finish changing after trying to call boss man Kwang again, she closes her phone, allowing the android to gank her midway through her changing clothes sequence. Eventually, she gives up trying to understand what's going on. She just allows the android to take care of her through any means possible, which includes having a foot bath like a spa, but the android uses the mouth as its dryer. So while Bro dries up a Hyang with no sussy intentions, she gets impressed that the android could talk while something is stuck in its mouth, which reaffirms the fact that he is actually a robot. Anyways, for some reason, Yang realizes that the android is a little bit sus, because it took off its armored pants, so now she's staring directly at its captain underpants, and there seems to be a large rhino hiding behind the boxers. She then goes to double-check the android's face to see how it feels, and much to her surprise, it's even smoother than her own skin, so Yang gets a little bit jealous that her skin routine got beat. Furthermore, she checks on its eyes, busy wondering how it can even shoot lasers, but the android tells her not to worry and reassures her by explaining that his lasers are harmless to humans, but it's very effective against flying insects. Fast forward a couple questions later, Hyang discovers that she's being recorded because all androids nowadays carry 24/7 cameras to protect its clients and the company's own products, causing her to abruptly push the android away. Eventually, she simmers down when she learns that his cameras are already programmed to instantly blur out her face and any private parts, so nothing can be leaked, and even if it did, she can sue at any time. Regardless, after finishing up a quick spa session with the droid, the sussy tables quickly turn when Hyang begins to constantly stare at the android's huge subway footlong while asking it if it would do anything she literally wants. So deprived of some real action all her life, she doesn't hesitate to rip off the remaining layer protecting the android's banana sword from being outright visible. With Aeon unable to hold her horses, we get teleported back to the house of Kwang, who's busy trying to raise himself up in front of a mirror because he's probably stuck in his midlife crisis. However, as he asks himself if he's still handsome, Jiamsun appears out of nowhere and replies by saying that of course he's, while handing him back his clothes. She then demands him to stop covering the junk, since she's an android after all, so he shouldn't care what it thinks, whilst making a good point that he needs his hands to dry up. And so he lets the robot dap him up while also allowing Jiamsun to finish drying his hair, but when he goes to remove some of his loose hair from her, he realizes that the cannons on her feel exactly like the real deal, and even better than the fake ones from Brazil. Surprisingly though, when the android computes that his touch was lingering for far too long than usual, she rips out a quick squeal and recoils back like she got ganked by an apex predator. She then apologizes for the random outburst, but she ends up leaving the room to let him finish up, and upon leaving, she informs Kwang that she will have some milk ready for him when he gets out. Upon getting out, he learns that his wife named the android Jiamsun because that was her nickname, and she even happens to look exactly like her back when she was younger. Later, when Jiamsun goes to do the dishes, he gets scared because Jiamsun acts exactly like someone he knows. After staring at Jiamsun's plump bakeries, the turntables turn when he switches his gaze towards his wife after realizing it's time for him to invade with his banana ship. Mr. Kwang delivers a direct hit by grabbing the twin pyramids of Giza, forcefully causing his wife to turn on his sussy music box, looking ready to become a reverse cougar like she is. At the same time, the old man accidentally flips the TV channel to a romantic anime where things are getting spicy, so they emulate it to a 1-to-1 ratio. However, right before Bro was about to rip off the clothes on the missus, Jiamsun ganks them out of nowhere, informing them that she just completed her task of cleaning the dishes and will be off to her room. When Jiamsun finally leaves within earshot, the two breathe a sigh of relief since they totally forgot Jiamsun was a thing. And let's be real, Mr. Kwang doesn't want anyone at the company to see what he's up to with his wife. Anyways, with the path of rice cake smashing now cleared for launch, she readies to jump onto his rocket to give him a scenic bike ride of the week. Unfortunately for the two of them, when Mrs. Kwang goes to check on his mechanical pencil, she finds that his Malphite ult is not rock hard at all, so she starts hitting him for his banana dysfunction. Kwang then tries his best to get up his World Trade Center to no avail, so she keeps wailing on him, super frustrated that her husband baited her again. In the end, she orders him to go to the clinic with her to fix his problem, and since she's 40 now, she can't wait that long for a baby. Nonetheless, the Viper mummy storms straight inside their bedroom and locks the door behind her, sending Kwang straight to the doghouse just because Bro could not get his banana sword to rise up at the most opportune moment. Fast forward to the middle of the night, we discover Kwang unable to sleep since he's still dwelling on the fact that he's lost his touch and he has no idea how to get his powers back. While deep in thought of his previous rice cake smashing prowess, Kwang gets surprised ganked by Jiamsun, who asks him if he's suffering from ED, but he almost wets his pants, not expecting anyone to be awake. Bro then hopelessly falls to the ground, unable to believe that even the brand new robot now knows about his problems, so Kwang is super embarrassed since he knows no one else at his age having such a problem with a bombshell wife. Eventually, Kwang gets a hold of himself and gets back up, where he proceeds to place a hand on Jiamsun's shoulders, thanking her for being concerned. Upon feeling human touch for more than half a millisecond, Jiamsun recoils back like a 50 cal as her body internally gets electrified, causing Kwang to wonder what the heck is going on. But since he's a smart man, he instantly realizes that the Model 42H might actually be sensitive to touch, so he asks her if she is. And since robots are not programmed to lie, Jeomsun spills the beans and informs him that her model is super sensitive to human touch, even though it's counterintuitive. While in the middle of her sentence, she quickly scoots to the side when Mrs. Kwong goes out to grab drinks, so it doesn't look too sussy to see her owner with her out in the balcony in the middle of the night. With the wife not realizing that Jeomsun is acting like a sussy Becca, Jeomsun tells Kwong that she's only hiding because her calculations determined that this was the best course of action. So with the robot determined to continue hiding, Kwong continues to play along even though he has no idea why she has to, so now my sussy senses have began tingling. And for some reason, my sussy senses are always 100% correct, so Kwong decides he wants to test his theory of how sensitive Jeomsun is. Now, I didn't know this old man was a menace, so while he stares and talks to his wife, he's actually secretly testing out the waters with Jeomsun's twin dragons while telling himself that it's totally okay since she's a robot. A few seconds later, Jeomsun looks like she's starring in the movie Interstellar, but she's the one ready to get blasted into space. Simultaneously, Kwong almost chokes on air when he realizes that Jeomsun has the ability to harden the tops of her pyramids like a real human, so he got caught off guard, unable to believe technology has advanced so far. Nevertheless, with their entire ordeal finishing, Jeomsun begins hitting him like his wife does, since she doesn't understand why he is still unable to get the banana up and running. However, Jeomsun is mistaken because it is up and running. The only difference now is that his Magic Johnson isn't up to par like when he was younger, so he explains to her that their experiment actually worked. Now that his basketball superstar is ready to rumble, Kwong rushes through the door looking like an ultimate Chad while yelling at his wife to get ready, since he's about to dunk right on her basket. And so the rest was history, with the two humans finally able to become two peas in a pod once again, but it was a very quick 1-versus-1 duel. After finishing up their intense yet quick rice cake destroying, Kwong heads back to the angel that helped restore his powers for one night, but she catches his Magic Johnson in 4K and makes a comment about how it looks like an eggplant. However, just when we thought that was it for the night, Jeomsun activates her sussy internet cores to help Kwong cheer up for not powering up his Magic Johnson to its full potential, so she wicks out the lifelike watermelons in front of him. She then stares directly into his soul, almost as if she's telepathically communicating with him that he knows what he needs to do next, but Kwong is totally flabbergasted, especially since he's shocked that her watermelons are so perfect and real. Nonetheless, he treats her like a 7-Eleven Slurpee, so he begins slurping the brand new flavor they came out with, while the missus is barely able to move from the quick session a few minutes ago. After being able to muster up some strength, she heads back to their room, and since he's out of the doghouse, she tells him not to stay up too late. Things then elevate even more quickly when the wife is finally out of the living room, where Kwong realizes his Magic Johnson has finally hit its old levels of power, but Jeomsun thinks something is wrong because his hot dog is leaking and it's almost a jumbo size, big enough to exit the shorts. But right before Jeomsun could repay the favor for the Slurpee drinking earlier, Kwong tells her it's enough while stopping her last second right before she was able to taste his own special leaking Starbucks order. Now that Kwong knows he's able to tap the powers within him to hit his prime again, he wonders if it's time for round 2 with the missus, but since she's gone, she's probably already fast asleep. However, as he continues to ponder whether or not he should just burst through the door for another 1-versus-1 duel, Jeomsun transforms into the ultimate cheerleader and cheers him on not to give up whilst telling him it's not even that late. This time, though, Kwong daydreams of the possibility of him breaking the door open while announcing to his wife that Magic Johnson has departed, and this time the GOAT Michael Jordan has arrived to destroy her basket all night long. Eventually, he snaps out of it when Jeomsun tells him to stop using NBA players as codenames for his banana tree plantation, since it doesn't really set the mood. Anyways, after being sent back down with realistic gravity back to Earth, Jeomsun tries to shake him awake, unable to understand why Kwong is super relaxed even after she caught the missus browsing a robot helper on Amazon to help her with the deed. But Kwong just sighs and doesn't mind his wife needing instruments to satisfy her baking needs, so she just pats Jeomsun's head, grateful for everything she's done, and tells her that she's already done enough for today. Although Jeomsun is still super insistent on him trying his best to do a round 2, she can only obey Master's orders, so she reluctantly goes along with fixing her clothes. But while Kwong helps her tidy up so no one can suspect anything sussy happened during the night, he pauses for a second and begins wondering why the bottom area is super wet and leaky like a real female human. His curiosity then gets the best of him, so he instantly tries to get the bottom of it literally, so he swipes the defending pants armor to get a better look, only to find out that they really did make a lifelike replica. So to get a better understanding of how the entire thing works, Pro literally goes exploring with his finger to test out if it's as good as a real one. Elsewhere, we find Ko busy cleaning himself up, so for you try-hard gamers, it's always best to take a shower at least once a day, so you guys should be more like our boy Ko. Regardless, as he sings along with his favorite singer Taylor Swift, he doesn't realize that someone has slowly crept their way right beside him, but it looks like they have no hands. Eventually, Ko realizes that someone is trying to gank him, so like a chat in his true nature, Bro whips away the curtains only to see his own robot acting like a sussy baka. And since she was sneaking around for no reason at all, Ko with a straight face starts bombing her with water only for her to get super frustrated because she has no other outfits. I mean, technically she has a plethora to choose from that came for free with a robot, but apparently they are way too revealing for her, especially the bunny girl outfit. Suddenly, she realizes that there's some soap on his chili hot dog, so she tries to help him out by cleaning it, but she's unable to because she has no hands, making her a little bit sad. But this sussy beka is an intelligent one, so she ends up asking for a favor, and that's for Ko to help her out this time.